Any day now, an unclassified report detailing the Pentagon's knowledge of UFOs, or UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena, will be made public. So today on Space Chat, I'm going to be diving into the subject of UFOs. I will also be joined today by special guest Dr. Joe Pesce, an astrophysicist and a program director at the National Science Foundation. Now, if you haven't been to Space Chat before, this is the weekly show where I come on here to answer your questions and take a deeper look at Earth, the universe, and beyond. So, without further ado, let's talk UFOs. Now, we're all probably familiar with the term UFO, unidentified flying object, or UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon. People have been reporting UFO or UAP sightings for quite a long time, since the dawn of recorded history, depending on who you're talking to. Now, in the mid-20th century, with the rise in popularity of science fiction and the birth of NASA and the human spaceflight program, UFO sightings became more popular and people started talking about it more. They started to be featured in media, TV, and movies, and public discussion was rife with tales of flying saucers and alien abduction. Now, while UFOs are often associated with aliens, specifically intelligent extraterrestrial life, UFOs aren't necessarily aliens. Still to this date, we have never found any conclusive proof of life beyond Earth. Now, something can be a verified UFO, and all that means is it's something in the sky. We don't have a name for it yet. We haven't identified it just yet. So UFOs could be aircraft or even atmospheric phenomena. In fact, over the years, UFO sightings have ended up being lightning, missile tests, weird clouds, balloons, the planet Venus, airplanes, and military experiments. But right now, people are talking about UFOs more than ever, as anytime this month, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, this unclassified government report detailing the Pentagon's knowledge of UFOs will be released. Now, how did all this start? What is this report? What's it coming from, right? So the report comes after footage of UAPs captured by US Navy pilots was made public, which was done with the help of Christopher Mellon, who served as Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence under President Bill Clinton and President George W. Bush. After leaving his position with the government in 2017, Mellon gave 3 newly declassified, so they were declassified at the time, Navy UFO or UAP videos to the New York Times and CBS's 60 Minutes program. These tapes showed strange and unknown, being the key word here, flying what looked like aircraft or drones, with some maneuvering either more quickly or in ways that seem unusual compared to typical aircraft. Now, these videos immediately received an incredible amount of attention from the general public, with people pointing to intelligent extraterrestrial life, to aliens for explanation, while others pointed to faulty cameras in the planes or potentially international spycraft or experimental technology to explain the videos. Now, what Mellon wants to do is he wanted to draw more attention to the videos and hopefully spark a larger investigation to get to the bottom of what was really captured on those tapes. Now, many others are very eager to figure out what was captured on film, including Senator Marco Rubio, who in December asked the Pentagon and the US Director of National Intelligence to investigate the footage and UAPs as a whole, and deliver an unclassified report to Congress within 6 months. So that was in December. So that means that this June marks 6 months. So any day now that report could be released. There is not a definitive single day where we are expecting it, but stay tuned throughout the month. Of course, when it comes out, well, I'm sure there will be some kind of discussion for us to have and talk about what the report means, whatever they may find. So that's a little overview about UFOs in general and what's been going on. So without further ado, let me answer some of your questions. So Phil on Facebook asks, okay, I have a UFO question. How do I get out of this thing and what year is it? Very funny, Phil. Thank you very much. Marlene on Facebook asks, could the latest released UFO vids be Russian or Chinese technology being tested, new weapons tech? It's very possible that what was captured on film or different UFO sightings in general could be attributed to different countries testing new aircraft, new experimental technology. I have no idea. These are things that people have suggested, but we have no definitive evidence either way. It has been suggested that it could be this technology testing, though there is no information to suggest that it would be a weapon of any sort. That has not been suggested, at least to my knowledge, yet. Okay, Star on Twitter asks, 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, and ears. What are the chances, what are the chances that an alien would look like us? This is a really great question, Star. So to find an alien that looks like us, 2 eyes, 2 ears, nose, mouth, the whole thing, one species or one general group of species on one planet amongst countless planets in a vast and ever-expanding universe seems rare. It seems like slim chances in my opinion. However, it is entirely possible. We don't know how life began on Earth definitively yet. That is definitely emerging, a discovery. We are always coming up with new theories, new explanations to figure out how life on Earth came to be, how we eventually came to be, just some rocky planet in the cosmos, and now all of this life and all of this, what we would describe as intelligent life. So right now, to even find a planet and assess whether or not intelligent life could be there theoretically, even that is pretty tenuous. So it's really challenging to say. It's very possible that we're the outlier, and that if and when we discover life off of Earth, out in the universe, extraterrestrial life, that it looks nothing like any life on Earth, right? Even microscopic life. Even Earth life that doesn't have 2 eyes, 2 ears, a nose, and a mouth. It's possible that we are much different from all of the other life that could exist in the universe. We just don't know. And that's what's so fascinating about the scientific side to the search for extraterrestrial life, right? Because we really don't know how it might live, what it might feed off of, what it might look like if we were to find evidence for its existence. So, to answer your question shortly, we don't know. All right, Sean on Twitter asks, what, we can't make anything that flies and submerges? We totally can, which is why many think that these videos could be attributed to perhaps military or experimental craft. Renee on YouTube asks, why are we the public only seeing this footage decades after the fact? So yes, this footage, while released in 2017, is much older, but it just wasn't declassified until 2017. And so, obviously the military, they have all of this data and it can't all immediately be declassified to the public. Of course, there are things that are kept secret for safety, for security reasons, etc. But those were just declassified recently, and so that's why we're seeing them. And then, as I explained before, once they were declassified, Mellon brought them to the press to gain that additional attention and make people aware that they existed. Because just because they're declassified doesn't mean that we necessarily know they exist. The military isn't necessarily posting their own blogs and articles about it. So yeah, it's just because they were recently declassified. All right, Ashish also says, similar question from Twitter, it's an old video, why now? Same explanation, it was just recently declassified, that's all. Okay, Jacques on Twitter asks, why are all UFO images blurry or unclear? So when we're talking about these specific videos from US Navy pilots, well, not only are they kind of older videos, they're not, they weren't taken last year, they're quite a few years old, so the cameras aren't as high-tech as they might be today. Also, they're taken from an aircraft going extremely fast, and, depending on what type of plane, is taking the image, they might not have the highest resolution camera on board because, you might not need that much detail in a camera aboard certain types of planes, especially dating back to when these videos were taken. Now, if we're talking about all UFO images, yes, it's true that a lot of UFO proof images and videos are blurry or unclear? And that's a really great question, especially, we're in the year 2021. Many of us have smartphones in our pockets that have pretty incredible cameras on them, so it is interesting that much of the proof that people from the general public put out there is blurry or unclear, but c'est la vie. All right, Charles on Facebook asks, don't we have high-resolution satellites? Why can't these be found by them? So, for a number of reasons. Satellites are constantly imaging and observing, right? So if an investigation team went to the trouble of lining up the data and the times and the dates, trying to identify what was in the video from space, I'm sure that that would be possible in a certain way. But that satellite would probably be a lot farther from the object than the plane, taking that video in real time, fairly close to it. So, it's possible that they could get additional data from that or additional views. I don't know if they have decided to do that. Again, this month, the report detailing the findings of the investigation is going to be released. So who knows, maybe they did use satellite data as well. Who's to say? All right, Supernell on Twitter asks, how come these unidentified objects aren't shot down? Isn't it a threat to national security? So the key word there is unidentified, right? We're seeing something in the sky and we don't know what it is. So to shoot it down, thereby killing whoever's piloting it, without knowing what it is, who it's from, who's inside, etc., what the intentions are, would be pretty unethical, and I think would cross some pretty big lines for the military, for the government, whether this is an ally, a civilian, whether it's international, an ally, or someone that we do not have the greatest national relationship with. Either way, this would be an act of instigating violence. Probably not the best move under any circumstance. So again, unidentified flying objects, probably, it doesn't make sense to shoot something down just for the sake of shooting it down because we don't know what it is. We don't know that it's a threat to national security. That is completely unknown to us because, again, it is unidentified. All right, Rico on Facebook asks, if there were extraterrestrials, do you think our government would deliberately not tell us to avoid mass hysteria? I don't think so. I think that the government would be very cautious in how they reveal that information. I think that, they would do so in a way that, wouldn't cause people to think it was something that it wasn't, that it was dangerous when it wasn't, etc. The US government, NASA is a government agency, and they just sent a probe to Mars with the explicit intention of looking for extraterrestrial life. The government is very openly supporting efforts to look for extraterrestrial life and putting a lot of funding into it. So I think if they found it, they would be pretty happy to tell us that all that funding was worth it. And if we're talking about this footage in particular, I don't think it would have been declassified if they thought that it would cause any sort of mass hysteria. Obviously, people are excited about the footage, but no, I don't think that that would be an issue. All right, so thank you. It's always so great to hear from all of you and all of your questions. Now I'm going to turn it over to our special guest this week, astrophysicist Dr. Joe Pesce. Hey space fans, I am here with Dr. Joe Pesce, astrophysicist and program director at the National Science Foundation. And we're going to talk about UFOs. How are you doing, Joe?
I'm doing well, thanks. Chelsea, and you?
I am doing very well.
Fantastic.
So let's talk about UFOs. Unidentified flying objects, sometimes referred to as UAPs or unidentified aerial phenomena. These have been around, people have been talking about them for quite a long time. And the reason I am bringing this up right now is that 4 months ago, the CIA released the Black Vault, a collection of UFO-related documents, and also recently footage of a few observations taken by pilots in the US Navy have been made public. And there has been a government investigation, the results of which are coming out very soon, in June. This month. So it's quite a hot topic right now. And with all of this going on and the history of what we know about UFOs, what do you think?
So you've put me on the spot, right? Because anything I could say might be completely negated in a couple of weeks right after this comes out. But that's fine, because that's the way things should be. So I think the key here is that the key word is unidentified, right? And there's certainly many things in the universe, many things on Earth that we don't understand and we don't know about. And so, unidentified is the key word. It doesn't necessarily mean that an unidentified flying object is an alien spacecraft or an extraterrestrial manifestation. So that's the important thing I think that we need to maintain. People hear UFOs and they think automatically, oh, that's a spacecraft from another part of the Milky Way. Maybe we'll get into that in a second, but not necessarily. And there are many phenomenon that we start to look now with technology that we're able to detect things that we hadn't detected before. Okay, so number one. Number two, I as a scientist, I need to make sure that we maintain the science in this and the scientific methodology when we go out and conduct our analyses. We can't jump to conclusions, and we need to make sure we understand our assumptions and that sort of thing.
Just seeing something and saying, I don't know what it is, isn't the results in and of itself.
That's correct.
You can't jump to conclusions, as you said. Yes.
That's right. And so, proper study is warranted in many cases, maybe not all, because we can easily discount things, but a proper scientific approach, I think, is really important. So that, and the fact again that there are many things that these unidentified flying objects could be.
Yes.
Not necessarily aliens.
Yes. Yeah.
So
if we're looking to kind of Occam's razor logic our way out of this, some people might think of it as the simplest explanation, but it really is not the simplest, most obvious explanation. At least to me. I don't know. You could have a different opinion on this.
Well, I mean, people probably do. I would agree with you that an extraterrestrial spacecraft zipping through the atmosphere of the Earth is probably not the simplest explanation. And the reason for me is that distances in an astronomical concept are astronomical, pun intended, right? Or no pun intended. Either way.
It's correct. Yeah.
Distances are vast. Physics, the laws of physics as we know them today, and I hasten to add that, things can change tomorrow or in 50 years. There are maybe other laws of physics that we don't yet know and understand. So, fair enough. I'm not saying that we know everything there is to know about the laws of physics and the universe, but certainly our understanding of the universe today means that traveling between these astronomically large distances is really difficult, and such that there's a tremendous amount of energy required. There's a tremendous amount of time required. That's the biggest issue.
Yes.
So for me, this is one of the bigger arguments for why, we don't have 50 alien species zipping around, around the Earth and the other planets in our solar system and coming to visit us.
Definitely.
Number one. Number two, when we look at statistically life, right? We have one example that we know of on Earth, and that's not ideal, but there's nothing we can do about that. So we can draw inferences and we can make conclusions. Again, caveating that this is just based on what we know. But what we do know is that on Earth, it appears that simple life forms, blue-green algae, that sort of thing, occurred very early on after the formation of the Earth. As soon as the Earth's surface cooled from molten rock, life was there. Simple life was there. And for the vast amount of history of the Earth and biological activity on the Earth, life has been of that simple type, right? Blue-green algae and similar. So that argument, those observations at least, might indicate that simple life is everywhere.
Yeah.
And, everywhere we look, we will find blue-green algae or something similar to that. It's an open question whether that simple life started on Earth or came in from outside of the Earth. And so that's interesting, right? If we could show that it came in from outside of the Earth, well, then that strengthens the argument that simple life is everywhere. So my take is that simple life is everywhere. Again, based on the example that we know of. Intelligent life, whatever that means, right? But say like humans, well, you look at the history of life on Earth, and intelligent life like humans is just a minuscule speck of time on Earth. When a species becomes intelligent like humans, right, there's all sorts of things that we can do to ourselves that are not good. And so, there may be a limited lifetime. So the likelihood of intelligent life forming is, when you look at the vast history of life on Earth, is probably low. Intelligent life like humans, maybe being able to survive long duration, might be low, hopefully not. But all of that combined then for me indicates that the possibility of intelligent life in the universe is not that there's we are the only intelligent species,
of course,
in our galaxy, but it seems like intelligent species would be rare.
Yeah.
Again, based on the model that we have, which is certainly not complete.
I mean, we could be the anomaly. Life as we know it on Earth could be vastly different. But if we're looking at just what we know and the information that we have, yeah, it makes a ton of sense. I mean, just for any simple life to form on Earth took an incredible amount of time. It was quite a long time before we came along. We haven't been around all that long, and who knows how long we'll survive. Sorry, human species, I just don't know. So you don't seem to be ruling it out as a possibility, but just looking at the natural constraints and kind of how likely it may or may not be just based on what we know.
Yes, absolutely. And kind of from a statistical analysis. Now, that statistical analysis needs to look at places where life could exist, right? And we now know that probably every star that we see has a planet, at least one planet. We're finding planets everywhere of all different types. And so lots and lots of planets, lots of stars, certainly in a galaxy like the Milky Way. And if each one of them has at least one, but probably many more than one, so there's lots and lots of planets, and not all planets are potentially hospitable to life, certainly life as we know it, but there's a huge number, and so statistically, there's almost certainly planets with life. The vast majority, I repeat, would be that simple life, but I wouldn't discount intelligent life here and there. Probably not as common. But then we get back to the point that I made at the beginning, is that there may be lots of intelligent species in the Milky Way, but the distances between them are vast.
Yes.
Even if there's an intelligent species on the star that's nearest, to our solar system, Proxima Centauri at just over 4 light years. 4 light years seems nothing, but that's a vast gulf of space to traverse.
Definitely. Yeah. So if we, kind of take that logic journey, it's possible that there is, intelligent life, how we might classify it, knowing what we know out in the universe, but to jump from that to that intelligent life, wherever it may exist, who knows how many light years away, traveling to our planet, entering our atmosphere safely, zipping around, and then just leaving. It just seems like a big jump from one which seems, within the kind of tenuous grasp of possibility to one which just seems like a bigger leap, at least to me.
Yes. Yeah, no, I agree with that. And, and then you have to question, okay.
Cool, as much as it would be super cool.
it would be fantastic. Yes. And so, like you say, in June, maybe I'll be proven wrong. And so I'd be happy.
We'll all be eating our words soon, who knows?
Exactly.
Yeah.
My suspicion is that the solution to this is more mundane, right? Yeah. Either it's things that humans have created, drones or something, or it's some atmospheric phenomenon or something. But the bottom line, whatever it is, even if it's extraterrestrial aliens, zipping around in their latest spacecraft, we need to use science to figure this out. And so that's my that's what I insist on. And then we'll see what happens. And whatever it is, we will gain some understanding, and that's a great thing, right? More knowledge is a good thing.
Absolutely. I have to ask, have you seen any of these videos? I know they've been circulating for quite a while over social media and in the media traditionally. Have you seen them? I'm just curious what you think of them. They're bizarre, right?
Yeah, they're interesting. Yes, there's certainly interesting phenomena there. It's hard to tell, right? We don't have when we just see a video on YouTube or whatever, it's hard. You don't have all the information of,
who took it, on what, where, when, how it's been treated, processed. There's a lot of steps.
Yes, exactly. Definitely. And so, that's important to understand. But yeah, very, very interesting and intriguing, certainly.
Definitely. Well, I can't wait to see whether we're eating our words or whether we're celebrating our rightness soon. Either way, I think it will be interesting, because, using science and logic to solve any mystery is fun. I think it's cool, whatever the outcome may be.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely. And that's right. There's no wrong answer, right? That's the neat thing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Joe. This has been fantastic.
Oh, you're welcome. I've enjoyed it as well. Thank you, Chelsea.
Thank you again so much to Dr. Joe Pesce for joining me today to talk about UFOs. Before we go, let me just quickly fill you in on what's been happening in space. So this past week, we began Pride Month, and Google put up a Google Doodle to honor Frank Kemeny, an astronomer turned activist, to mark the occasion. Also, SpaceX is planning to fly 3 more private astronaut missions to the space station for the company Axiom Space. NASA's James Webb Space Telescope was set to launch on Halloween, but now might not launch until November. And a new study shows that without drastic and imminent fossil fuel reduction, carbon dioxide levels could revert to what they were over 50 million years ago. So this has been Space Chat. Thank you so much for joining me and for your wonderful questions. Join me again next and every Friday. And as always, stay tuned right here at space.com. And if you have any questions about space, about UFOs, about science, always feel free to ask us. Over Twitter, you can email us, you can comment down below right here. We are always really excited to hear your questions, and it's a lot of fun for me to answer them. Right. Take care.